Well, we've made our way through to January in our first season up in the Premier League here at Plymouth Argyle and somehow find ourselves in a European qualifying spot, albeit we've had to make a panic buy in the goalkeeping area because injuries are a thing this year. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 16 of the Waine Train here on Sean Does FM with Plymouth Argyle. I hope you're doing well and coming up today. We start off January, or pretty much start off January, with an FA Cup third round tie at Blackburn Rovers, a team that we didn't actually beat, went in the championship last season, and off the back of that we take on Crystal Palace at home park in the Premier League, where a win should solidify ourselves inside of a European qualifying spot. So if you're looking forward to that coming up in today's episode as well as a transfer update, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated, but we picked up two good results at the end of last week, albeit left it late to pick up a 2-1 win over West Ham and then bump Liverpool 6-1, both of those games at home park. If you missed the episode, sorry, spoilers, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. And off the back of that, we picked up really a nice run of form, as you might expect off the back of a 6-1 win over Liverpool. Of course, December is a busy month, so unfortunately can't show you guys highlights from all of these games, but importantly, Ben Waine picked up lots of goals, and as well as that, we picked up wins as well. And it started off with a 3-2 win away against Brighton. That was a team that beat us in that fixture earlier in the season in our first game in the Carabao Cup. Early goal here to Morgan Whittaker got us on the front foot. Unfortunately, with around about 20 minutes left though, Anderson Talisca, he struck in quick fashion twice. So going to the last 10 minutes of this game, we were down by 2-1 and put both our left back and our right winger onto an attacking duty instead of as usually set up in our tactic these days, kind of like we did against West Ham late at the end of last week. And thankfully Jacob Greaves got a goal, and only a few minutes later Facundo Farias, who did set up that first goal, they both grabbed goals to make sure that we do go away with a 3-2 win. So that's a big result, especially considering we were 2-1 down late in that game. So a big 3 points there to make it 3 wins in a row off the back of that slight rough patch, including quite a few draws that we did have going into that episode at the end of last week. That was our toughest game for a little while as well in the Premier League. So from there, as you might expect, we did get on a bit of a roll. First up, a 2-0 win over Nottingham Forest, including one Ben Waine goal. And it was the one that sealed the 2-0 result. Poor touch there from Nia Carter, and we did go 1-0 up just before half-time in this one. And Ben Waine just gets a bit of help there from the underside of the crossbar, gets that one past Matt Turner, and that was the goal that did steal a deserved 2-0 win. In terms of XG, probably a fair scoreline, could have been 3-1, but we'll take the 3 points from that one. Off the back of that, we then went and took on Sheffield United away, a team who are struggling this time. Won't show you the Waine Train goal because it was from the penalty spot. And this was actually quite an interesting game away, taking on the Blades. John Egan got the scoring underway with a slightly unlucky own goal. It was a decent strike, I believe, from Nikola Iliev that took a deflection. Up until that point too, Sheffield United actually looked like the team that were more likely to get a breakthrough, but as we tend to do, we can kick into gear late in the first half, and in the second half, and off the back of that own goal, really, Sheffield United never really had a chance. Reece Williams put away a header 10 minutes into the second half, and then 10 minutes later, the Waine Train made it 2 goals in 2 games with a penalty where he did send the goalkeeper for Sheffield United and Loon the wrong way, and we pick up in the end a pretty comfortable 3-0 win, albeit certainly not our best performance, but thankfully we still got the job done. So some good points that we were picking up there in the month of December, and then a game that we won, but it kind of changed everything. The Waine Train picked up a double in this game, and we got off to a hot start when picking up a 4-3 win over Fulham. We'll first show you the Waine Train goals. Kane Kesler-Hayden tore these guys apart early here at Craven Cottage. He set up a goal early for, I believe it was Morgan Whittaker, and then he sets one up here for the Waine Train. Lovely ball in behind. He puts that one past Bernd Leno in that bottom left corner. And then with about 15 minutes to go, Morgan Whittaker there makes his way into the box and squares one nicely for the Waine Train. And that was a big goal as well, because at that point, it was 3-2 in our favour. So thankfully that just gave us a cushion, because Fulham did grab a goal in the 98th minute. So that second Ben Waine goal did make sure that we did pick up all 3 points. As you can see, a very to and fro game. And that first goal that Ben Waine scored was the reason kind of that we're suffering a bit of an injury crisis in the goalkeeping area. As you can see, at the 11-minute mark there, Mike Cooper, he picked up an injury that was a broken hand, and I'll put up the screenshot of when that happened, because at that stage Fulham hadn't had a shot in the game, so I can only presume that Mike Cooper was so excited that the Waine Train scored that he punched the ground or the post or something trying to wind up the fans at Craven Cottage, and he broke his hand. So that was kind of funny at the time, didn't mind it, but off the back of that now it's actually just annoying, because in the game off the back of that, we suffered yet another goalkeeping injury when we took on Chelsea, this time at home park, of course, a Chelsea team that were beaten both times we've played them so far in the save, but we got bumped 5-1, and that's because at the 7-minute mark, Connor Hazard went to punch a ball clear, and he suffered an injury as well, so it did mean that both our first team goalkeepers got injured in back-to-back games, and they're both out for a while as well. It has meant that we have gone into the transfer market. Thankfully, I did that off the back of that previous game against Fulham, but it did mean we had to bring on a youngster from our under-18s in Agyakum, and as you can see, he has no business being in the first team, so it did mean we had a really poor goalkeeper for that Chelsea game, and as you can probably tell by the stats, honestly, we didn't play that badly here at all. Got a goal through Good Johnson to level things up in the first half, but unfortunately, most of Chelsea's shots, they did beat our young goalkeeper, because it's all they really had to do, and we suffer a 5-1 defeat. So even though that's our first defeat in a while, I do feel like there's a pretty good excuse for that one, with both our first team goalkeepers being injured. Just kind of threw us off in this one. As I said, didn't actually play that badly, more shots and a higher XG than Chelsea, but somehow we did suffer a 5-1 defeat. Raheem Sterling with a double in goals to Jackson Mudryk and Henrik Mkhitaryan. It continues a trend that Chelsea have in the save of signing some really weird, experienced journeymen at Stamford Bridge, but unfortunately we suffered a 5-1 defeat, and unfortunately the new goalkeeper that we were looking to sign, he had to wait for a work permit, so didn't get here in time for our clash against Manchester City at the Etihad in the Premier League. So that meant that Agyakum did have to start in goal yet again, and unfortunately, as you might expect, things did not go well. Goes there to save a deflected shot from Haaland, and from there, to be fair, that's more our defence. They're at 6s and 7s. He squares it for Phil Foden to give them a 1-0 lead, and then just before half-time, Foden, he's on the attack, tries to square that one for Kovacic, but unfortunately we get a foot in there, but City do keep the ball. They find Serge Gnabry and make it 2-0 going into half-time. To be fair, just shy of the hour mark, Urin Kunda here who got a start in this game. Quite a few of our players were tired, so we did put out a fairly rotated team for this game, but Morgan Whittaker, he gets a goal there at the far post coming off the bench, which did give us a little bit of hope. Yet again, didn't play too badly, but to be fair, this time stats-wise, did deserve to lose, but a 2-1 defeat considering who we had in goal and who we started in this game against Man City. Honestly, not too bad of a result, albeit the Waine Train has just slowed up in those last couple of games since that injury. To our goalkeepers, we had a pretty good December, so good that Ben Waine picked up Player of the Month, and also we picked up the Manager of the Month for December. But what those wins mean between West Ham and Fulham, that was over the space of 6 games, 6 straight wins, 18 straight points, and it does mean we are currently in a Conference League qualifying spot, just ahead of Manchester United on goal differential, and 7th on the Premier League table. Just the one Premier League game today where we do take on Crystal Palace, who have actually sunk a long way since we played them in the first half of the season. Now they're down in 17th, just outside the relegation zone, albeit 8 points clear of Ipswich Town already. The 3 teams in the relegation zone, and them, Bournemouth and Sheffield United. It's going to take a lot for those guys to avoid going down, albeit interesting to see that Bournemouth these days being managed by Lionel Scaloni, the World Cup winning manager, and also in terms of Ipswich Town, they've now got Ruud van Nistelrooy in charge. There's been a couple of managerial changes here since the end of last week, especially for those teams in the relegation zone, but we're now in a very good spot, 20 points clear of Ipswich Town in 18th. So I think it means with only 17 games left in our Premier League season now, I'm pretty confident in saying we are not going to get relegated here at Plymouth Argyle in our first season in the Premier League, and now really it's a chance for us to potentially try and sneak our way into Europe, albeit that might be easier said than done with teams like Man United and Brighton chasing us down. Also Tottenham, they could, I suppose, make a comeback, but they're having a bit of a rough season, down in 14th as well. So there's a couple of teams there that you might expect to go above us in the second half of the Premier League season, but at the moment, that good run of form that we did find in December does mean we are in a European spot. Hopefully, we can pick up a couple of wins today and keep ourselves in that. But first up, it is the FA Cup. But obviously, with those injuries that we did suffer to our goalkeepers, we'll go and check out those. As you can see, they're pretty serious ones. Still not exactly sure what did happen to Mike Cooper, but I think my theory is the only one that makes sense. But a broken hand, he's out for 12 days to 4 more weeks, so he's out for a while. And also Connor Hazard's out for 7 days to 2 weeks, so thankfully he'll be back sooner, so that means that Agikim could potentially drop back down to the bench, but it does mean we have dipped into the transfer market for a goalkeeper. Obviously, next season, Mike Cooper is going down to being a cup goalkeeper instead of an important player, so we made the most of that, as well as the fact that we were able to bump up our transfer budget even further off the back of the end of last week by adjusting the board expectations. These days we've told them we can avoid a relegation battle. It did mean that transfer budget got bumped up to around about 11 million, and also the wage budget up to 90k a week. So another significant increase there to our transfer budget at Plymouth Argyle, and we signed a new first choice goalkeeper for next season. This season he's just a cup goalkeeper, and this is Luís Jr. We've signed him out of Portugal, playing for Famalicão, a team who in saves in the past here on the channel have actually made their way into Europe. He's a Brazilian goalkeeper, and a very promising one at that. We paid £12 million for him overall. About 8 million of that was up front, but for the first season he'll be our cup goalkeeper. The theory to that is that while he learns the language, he can just play in competitions like the FA Cup, and next season when Mike Cooper does go back to being the cup goalkeeper, this guy can step up and be the first choice guy when his grasp of the language is a bit better, because I do think that actually makes quite a big difference with players in Football Manager. But he is a big upgrade in goal, certainly better attribute-wise than both Mike Cooper and Connor Hazard. But for just this season, he'll be our cup goalkeeper. Next season, he'll be first choice. Thankfully, doing that contract did work, and he did still want to come here to Plymouth Argyle. 3.5-star current ability, 4.5-star potential. He could be a really good player for us in goal. His only real weak attributes for that sweeper keeper that we do use on attack, his first touch, composure, and positioning. So a good pickup there in Luís Jr., and he'll be our first choice goalkeeper while those other two are out. Also, have put in a bid for another goalkeeper on a free transfer. That is Hubert Grazdik, formerly of Arsenal, just an extra one, just to make sure we don't have a greyed out goalkeeper on the bench. Unfortunately, Mr. Claridge don't really want to use him, but Glakic can come in hopefully and just be that emergency, because goalkeeper injuries are obviously a bit of a thing in FM24, as we've found out the hard way. So hopefully we can get lots of goalkeepers here into the club, and that won't be too bad. Made all the more confusing, this goalkeeper situation, by the fact we have had the preview for our youth intake here at Plymouth Argyle this season, and we've got a really good goalkeeper apparently. So unfortunately he won't come to us until March, which is really frustrating, because I'm pretty sure we could have used him a couple of months earlier, but it apparently is going to be an excellent intake. We'll just go over and try and get the star rating up there, because that can glitch sometimes, unfortunately, still doing so. But as you can see, this year it does look to be a very good youth intake, headlined by a goalkeeper and also potentially a centre-back and a central midfielder as well. So it could be a good youth intake here at Plymouth Argyle this season. Hopefully that does end up being the case, and maybe we can let go of someone like Hubert come the end of the season, maybe potentially for a fee. But just want to make sure if we do continue to get goalkeeping injuries, we've at least got someone who is half decent. Also, there is a bid in as well for Al Mami Toure, but we'll get to that if something does happen. Ethan Lev from Birmingham will be the replacement for him as an extra right back option. So a bit going on transfer wise here at Plymouth Argyle with the goalkeeping injury situation, but hopefully we can pick up a win first up in today's episode. Last year in the FA Cup, we suffered defeat, I believe it was, to Bradford City, who were a league below us, in that third round. Hopefully this time we can get the job done, but yet again we are playing a team a division below us, and again we are away from home, this time going to Ewood Park to take on Blackburn. And as you can see before, a team we didn't actually beat when we were in the Championship last season. Hopefully this time we can do the job, especially because they are all the way down in 11th on the Championship table. It looks like this time Leicester City are going to make their way back up to the Premier League, potentially alongside one of Norwich or Southampton. But based on the fact that we are in 7th currently on the Premier League table, this does look like a game that we should be winning, albeit we've got quite a few tired boys going to this game. So because of that, we are rotating quite heavily, and also trying to give some of our players who have work permit issues coming up, so hopefully when they do need to apply for a new one, they will be okay. But currently the likes of Rafael Mamas and also Nestori Irinkunda are a little bit on the iffy side. I think Sebastian Helsner is okay. That one's coming up fairly shortly, because we did sign him in January of last year. But as you can see, lots of changes, in particular, of course, Luis Jr. in goal. He makes his first team debut, his first start for the club. Now that he's arrived here, hopefully he can do a decent job against Blackburn Rovers, but this could be a tricky game, especially with all the rotation, but it does feel like the chance here to give some of these players a chance in this competition before we continue to try and focus on potentially securing a spot in Europe for our second season in the Premier League. But as I said before, considering that gap we've now got on those teams in the relegation zone, don't think relegation is a threat to us here this season. Hopefully we can just try and achieve as high a finish as possible. I do actually think that 8th still might be enough for us potentially to get into Europe for next season, with the fact that we are now on that expanded Champions League, so potentially 5 teams from the Premier League could make their way into that. But hopefully we can turn around those rather unfortunate timing games that we just played against Chelsea and Man City with those goalkeeping injuries. That Chelsea one in particular, that one did sting a little bit because we've beaten them both times so far in the save. Unfortunately, that injury to Hazard did just feel like it stuffed us up a little bit, but great start in this game. A throw inside the final third, less than a minute into the game. Gibson with the throw, and we eventually find Poveda, who's still been in pretty good form ever since those 2 goals he got to give us a draw against Tottenham late last week, and he puts that one in the top right corner. So thankfully, despite the fact we're rotating our team quite heavily to the point where the Waine Train isn't actually playing in this game, but makes his way in field and beats Pears in goal, and thankfully we do grab a nice early 1-0 lead, albeit off the back of that, it is Blackburn here who are in position, looking to make their way out from the back, but hopefully we can grab a cushion goal nice and early. But so far, the attacking mindset that we have used since we did make our way into December, going to that West Ham game in that episode at the end of last week, working an absolute treat, as you could see from that form we did have prior to those games against Chelsea and Man City. It has been doing a really good job propelling us up the table and into European reckoning. Hopefully it can do the job here. Good header away there from Graves, one of the few players who keeps his spot in the first team. Also Gibson just coming back from injury, so that's quite nice timing as well. Now Gallagher, he gets in behind. Luis Jr. there kind of comes out. I'm expecting him to be a little bit sketchy in these games he does play until the likes of Mike Cooper do come back. Cooper as well, actually in excellent form before he picked up that injury, celebrating a Ben Waine goal too much. So unfortunately, bad timing for that because he was really starting to come into his own in the Premier League. But hopefully Luis Jr. should do a decent job while Cooper's out. But as I said, I'm expecting him to be a little bit sketchy while he does learn the language. That's something I have noticed in my time playing Football Manager, especially with goalkeepers and players in general. When they don't know the language, they can just put out some average performances. But thankfully, we win the ball there down that left-hand side. Hopefully, Aaron Kunda can have a good game here. The former A-League prospect from Adelaide United, but Gibson on the ball plays that one over to Julio. Now makes its way up to Mamas, one of those other players who is going to start for us in the FA Cup to hopefully clear that ESC. Nice ball over the top there from Iliev for Good Johnson. Hits it into the ground. One of those new volleys. It finds the back of the net, but apparently he was offside and no VAR in the FA Cup. An encouraging start, even though we've only had the one shot on target. Interesting to see too that Blackburn suffering a couple of injuries in this game to Gallagher and then to Val. So I think that's both of their strikers who have gone off inside half an hour, but hopefully here a chance for us to grab a cushion goal. Mamas there gets taken out from behind, but thankfully play continues because Fredericks finds himself in a bit of space. We'll try and put this one far post for Nestri, headed away, and a chance here for Hedges to do something for Blackburn on the counter-attack, and Smodjic there is well in behind our defence, and I think he's onside because it was just before the halfway line. He beats Luis Jr., so off the back of that, we'll demand more because Blackburn, they have grabbed an equaliser, which is a bit frustrating because so far we've had most of the possession in this game based on the highlights that we have seen. Julio is staying right on the halfway line there to try and catch him offside, but unfortunately that is not the case. He times his run perfectly and makes it 1-1. And to be fair, stats-wise, actually Blackburn have been the team on the front foot in this game, but thankfully shortly off the back of that, a corner in our favour. Nestri puts this one far post, and the big tall Icelandic striker, Ingu Johnson, will get on the end of that. It's another assist for Nestri off the back of that one he did pick up in that game in the Prem against Manchester City of all teams. So Nestri doing a good job to be fair these days. He has 3-star current abilities, so certainly working his way to that 5-star potential that he does have, but Pears comes out for that one, doesn't quite get there, and thankfully we're not behind for too long here at Edward Park coming up to halftime. Still with a 2-1 lead, we'll just get here Jacob Graves to ease off tackles on that yellow card. We might now take him off at halftime, and hopefully a chance for us here to make it 3-1 just before we do head into the sheds in the pouring rain here at Ewood Park. But Julio is on the ball, gets that one out to Fredericks, who starts to make his way forward. Thankfully does link up with Poveda, who was being marked quite tightly there for a little bit. Now Bischoff, he is on the ball, another player developing very nicely. We try and put that one far post, but Blackburn will clear it away. But Hedges, he just finds Jacob Graves. What can he do before he probably comes off at halftime? Squeeze that one for Nikola Iliev, and he bangs that one past Piers, and he was onside, so that makes it 3-1, and now in a pretty good position, I think, to be going through to the fourth round of the FA Cup this season. Of course, last season did not manage it with that loss to Bradford City, but thankfully on this attacking mentality, even though we have put out a pretty heavily rotated team, some of these players did need game time, and thankfully they're making the most of it. That makes it 3-1, and that should be the scoreline at halftime. Thankfully, stats-wise, we are back on the front foot in this game, and it is 3-1 as we're about to head into the second half. Graves, as I said, is on that yellow card, so I think it's the only change we need to make at halftime. But to be fair, it's probably a good idea here to rest Kane Kesler-Hayden, as he has started a lot of football recently. So I think Sebastian Helsner will come on with Graves, and that means he can go to right back. Ryan Fredericks will cover left back, because that is a position that he can play. But so far, this has been good. But we'll tell the guys they're capable of better and get stuck in to the second half. With that 2-goal advantage, hopefully we can hold on to it at least and maybe pick up a few more goals to give some of these squad players a bit more confidence. But we now get underway in the second half with that 3-1 lead. We'll see if there's many highlights, and in fact there's an early one here to Blackburn. Hopefully they don't close the gap yet again early in this half. Now that one takes a bit of an unlucky deflection for them. Good Johnson nearly wins it. Thankfully it skews away, and Helsner can try and get us on the attack here at right back with those fresh legs coming on for Graves on that yellow card. Now Poveda with a long range effort on the edge of the box, but unfortunately that one goes just over the bar. Still 3-1, but at the moment it looks like here that Luis Jr. having a decent debut in goal for us, as you would expect, being quite a good prospect. But now Blackburn with a corner. Let's see what our new Brazilian goalkeeper can do from this situation. Wharton has the ball on the edge of the box. It's a shot there from Yuto Iwasaki, and to be fair, no stopping that one. So we're going to praise the guys, and hopefully that might just keep them in a good mood, because Blackburn, well and truly, right back in this game. Early days in the second half. Iwasaki, to be fair, still getting marked quite tightly there, but just rockets that one into the top right corner. I think Louis Jr. there might have had a bit of an obstructed sight on that one, because there was definitely someone trying to close him down, but it didn't quite happen. And Blackburn right back in this game. So an interesting debut here for our new Brazilian goalkeeper, but thankfully we have the ball in the next highlight only a couple of minutes later, and Nestori starts to make his way forward. Can he grab a goal? Unfortunately, hits that one straight into the path of Piers, and goal for Blackburn. To be fair, he's not had the best of days. He made that mistake leading to that second goal that we did score, but now 3 players are down to red hearts, so we'll make a couple more subs. We've got Poveda on a red heart. He can come off for Whitaker. Also, Phillips will come on for Bischoff, and Kane Kesler-Hayden can come on at left back for Ryan Fredericks. So that's going to be the 3 subs that we do make here with a half hour left, just keeping players fresh before we do have a week break off the back of that. So that's a nice timing for that, so all our players can hopefully freshen up before we get stuck back in to the Premier League. But hopefully we can do that without having to worry about an FA Cup replay. But a chance here for Blackburn from a ball into the mix, but thankfully Louis Jr. with some decent aerial reach, he can claim that one and keep it at 3-2 with still a half hour left. He takes his time here on the ball and boots it deep with his left foot. We don't win that one in the air, but thankfully good work there from Phillips, the former St Johnstone man. And now Whitaker starts to make his way forward. Morgan Whitaker squares that one nicely for Nikola Iliev. It's a really good chance, and he should have put that one away to make it 4-2, but unfortunately, good save that time from Piers, albeit off the back of that, a free kick, and Whitaker, he gets in behind Nestori open at the far post, but good Johnson absolutely steals that one off him. He might be a bit filthy about that. Might have been a chance for him there to grab his first goal in a competitive game for Plymouth Argyle, but that makes it 4-2, and surely that will be enough for us to make sure we're going through to the fourth round of the FA Cup. But thankfully this time we do get a shot off that does beat Piers. That makes it 4-2, and hopefully now we can hold on and keep Blackburn quiet for the remainder of this game. Now Iliev is down to a red heart. Nestori with there with a free kick, and it actually goes quite close. He has scored a couple of goals like that in the A-League recently in real life. Of course, being in New Zealand, I do keep a bit of an eye on that competition with the way the Phoenix are going. In particular, the Phoenix have got off to a brilliant start, at least before they play the game tonight as I'm recording this. I think they're playing over in Melbourne Not too sure though who it is they're playing. I should know better than that. But two Melbourne teams, so don't always remember which one that they're playing, but hopefully they can pick up another win. But with our last substitution, Facundo Farias, he will come on for Nicola Iliev. Also worth noting, off the back of the save, we are doing a save based in the A-League with the new Auckland team. It will be a New Zealand builder nation as well, so that could be interesting. If you are an A-League fan, keep an eye on the channel come the early stages of next year. But Facundo Farias making his way on the field now, makes his way forward with the ball down that right-hand side, squares that one for Phillips, plays it to Good Johnson, who puts that one away, but unsurprisingly, he was offside, so he does not pick up a hat-trick. That keeps it at 4-2. To be fair, is he even on a hat-trick? He is. He had that goal earlier ruled out for offside. That's why I was a bit confused, but he is on a hat-trick, so a chance here for our Icelandic striker to stay amongst the goals. Thankfully, off the back of that episode at the end of last week, both of our strikers have been in good form, of course, including the Waine Train picking up the Premier League Player of the Month for December, but lots of highlights in this game. But thankfully, putting good pressure here on Blackburn. Ball forward there to Farias. Massive chance yet again that we put off target. So we've got a couple of good chances in this game. Not quite making the most of them, but thankfully still up by 4-2. And while we're here, about to make our way into the last 10 minutes, we will start to time waste just a little bit to hopefully make this highlight stop a corner to Blackburn. Unfortunately, that is not the case. They put this one near post. Thankfully, Good Johnson does head that one away, and Luis Jr. will come out and claim that. So hopefully this highlight might just calm down now, or there will be a chance for us to make it 5-2. But thankfully, our backup players, who were somewhat in need of the game time here, are doing a job, and it does mean our first team players should be nicely freshened for that Premier League clash. Here we do take on Crystal Palace, unless we can see 2 late goals, and this one does go to a replay, which would be frustrating. Now Hedges on the ball on the edge of the box. Good work there from Kesler Hayden to win that ball back for us. We'll see if anything amounts from this. Kesler Hayden starts to make his way forward nicely, this time down that left-hand side. He will go on a run himself, try and put that one in that bottom right corner, but unfortunately just the wrong foot for that shot, and it curves away from the corner, so it does remain 4-2. But thankfully, this has been a fairly comfortable watch. We've had that advantage for most of the game. A couple of goals to Blackburn, but thankfully we've struck back relatively quickly and now do have that cushion advantage in 3 minutes of added time. Don't think there's enough time here now for Blackburn to get back into this one, and they're also making some poor passes and giving us chances to get one more. Another chance here for Nestri. Squares that one for Farias, but unfortunately he was well offside, so a couple of those today as well. A couple of goals ruled out that we could have scored, so we could have easily actually put quite a few goals here on this championship outfit. Now Hausner, he might have a crack from just outside the box, rather smartly does opt to do something else, but he's back on the ball here. Now he takes on the shot himself, but unfortunately that one goes just wide. But I'm pretty sure that will be full time. Indeed, it is the case, and thankfully we are through this year to the next round of the FA Cup off the back of a 4-2 win over Blackburn. Luis Jr. gets a 7.1 on debut, but Good Johnson, the highest rating with those 2 goals that he did pick up. I believe both of them were through his head. Also good work there from Nestri. He set up 1 goal at least, but that is a good solid performance from a pretty heavily rotated team in the FA Cup. We pick up a 4-2 win. We'll come back shortly, update you guys on any more transfer news before we take on Crystal Palace and hopefully keep ourselves in a European spot in the Premier League. So thankfully we got past Blackburn Rovers there with a pretty heavily rotated team in the 3rd round of the FA Cup. Before we reveal who we're going to be playing tomorrow in the 4th round of that competition, a bit of a transfer update. As you can see, a couple of ins on both sides, as you probably suspected before, because we were getting rid of Mami Toure. That deal did go through. He made his way to Saudi Arabia. He's gone to Al Fayha for £4 million. Definitely a little bit less than I thought we could get for him, but we'll take that money considering he was quite upset at the game time that he was getting here at Plymouth Argyle. So Mami Toure, he leaves the club for £4 million. He was only here for about 1 year because we did sign him around this time last year when I felt like we needed an extra wing-back option. But £4 million for a player we picked up on a free, I think, is a pretty good deal. Early stages, picked up a goal on debut there in Saudi Arabia, but that did mean we did need to replace him, and we did that with a Birmingham player and Ethan Laird. This cost us overall about £10 million. We did only spend, though, about 4 of that up front, so it does go out in future instalments, the rest of that deal. But he's done a decent job for Birmingham the last couple of years in the save since he did sign from Manchester United. Decent ratings down there in the championship. But to be fair, tribute-wise, does look a little bit better than Almami Toure, and with a bit of potential as well. So he's a decent squad player. Our new backup at right back, who can also do a bit of left back, so might even be a better bench option than someone like Ryan Fredericks. So Ethan Laird, a new addition to the club here, the 23-year-old Englishman. And also, as we suggested before, we did get into the club Hubert Glazsik, so it does mean our greyed out goalkeeper is no longer on the bench, and also our youngster who started those couple of games while both Cooper and Hazard were injured. He's also gone back down to the under-19, so thankfully now lots of goalkeeper depth here at Plymouth Argyle, which might be a good thing considering the goalkeeping injury situation on this year's game. But he's joined the club on a free transfer as just a breakthrough prospect on a very cheap deal, and at 21 years old, doesn't even need to be registered, does the former Arsenal man, so he'll be an emergency backup if we do need to use him, but we do at the moment. He'll be on the bench for us in this upcoming game, where we do take on Crystal Palace with a couple of new additions there to us at Plymouth Argyle and Hubert, as well as Ethan Laird. And as well as that, we've actually got more injuries in training off the back of that game in the FA Cup, as well as Mike Cooper and Connor Hazard. Now Julio Plagazzello is out with an abdominal strain. That's a bit of an annoying one because we were hoping to get rid of him in this transfer window for his contract that expire at the end of the season. He's out for 10 days to 4 weeks, so that could put pay to any hope of getting rid of him this transfer window, which could have been something that we did around transfer deadline day. In tomorrow's episode, we'll see if he comes back in time. To be fair, expected return is on the 22nd, so we could still potentially get rid of him on deadline day. But also Facundo Farias is out for this clash with Crystal Palace with a cold. That's a little bit annoying because unfortunately Nikola Iliev is still on a heavy workload and is highly injury prone at the moment, so that could be a bit of an issue. Hopefully that's not something that does happen in this upcoming game, but it does mean a couple of first team players are missing as we are about to take on a Crystal Palace team who drew with us earlier this season, these days managed by Graham Potter, but to be fair, not doing that good a job, down in 17th in the Premier League, albeit well and truly clear of the relegation zone. It will take a bit of a disaster if they do fall into that, but hopefully we can pay them back for a draw that we picked up against them earlier this season at Selhurst Park. We can get the job done here at home park and jump back above Manchester United into one of those European qualifying spots. And unfortunately, a few other players are injury prone as well, so we're pretty close to full strength for this game with those injuries considered, but it does mean Ballymumba at left back. To be fair, he's starting to complain about game times. With Jacob Graves being injury prone, he will start at left back. Also, as I said before, Iliev in the Cameron. Also, Poveda over Morgan Whittaker. Just want to rest one of our star players here at the club, and Poveda, to be fair, has been doing a pretty good job over the last month or so, so he'll get a start on that right-hand side off the back of that goal that he did pick up against Birmingham. So hopefully, even though we've made those changes, we can still put out a good performance here, one good enough to get us back inside of a European spot and above Manchester United, who of course we did take on earlier this season, and it did feel like a harsh defeat at Old Trafford 1-0. We did give away a bit of a soft penalty in the second half of that game, but hopefully we can jump back above them here on the Premier League table, but definitely a lot closer to our first choice starting 11 for this game, especially with Louis Junior in goal instead of someone like Agyukum. That was the under-18s goalkeeper who I forgot about before. Hopefully that does mean we ship a lot less goals than we did in games like that Chelsea one in particular, but Crystal Palace down in 17th at home park. This should be a good chance for us on our form prior to that Chelsea-Man City double to get back on track in the Premier League. Interesting to see that the Huddersfield manager is scouting one of our players that might actually be Ballymumba. He might be someone else if he kicks up too much of a fuss, who does leave us before transfer deadline day, albeit that might be for a pretty decent transfer fee, as he is worth quite a bit. But first highlight here is a corner in favour of Crystal Palace. Now Eze starts to cut inside, and somehow Luis Junior does not save that one. Might have taken a deflection off a defender, but he picks up his 50th league goal of his career. I believe in real life he's just signed a contract extension with Crystal Palace still there in the save, and somehow gets this one through our defence. And I think it takes a wicked deflection off Louis Junior there, trying to do a split save. It doesn't work, and we are 1-0 down early, albeit we do see a highlight from the restart, but not a good start here against the team who are just outside of the relegation zone, albeit that does them a bit dirty considering how clear they are in terms of points. But Nicola Iliev here does get in behind. He will beat Dean Henderson in goal, so thankfully not behind for long here, kind of similar to what we did in that Blackburn game in the FA Cup. We struck back from their goals pretty close to immediately, and we do the same here. Ian Paveda with a nice ball forward. Thankfully Iliev there somehow makes his way through that defender and he beats Dean Henderson there at the near post, and we're not behind for long at all. We make it 1-1 only about 15 minutes in to this game, our first shot in the entire game, and it finds its way into the back of the net. And off the back of that, we are back on the attack. The Waine Train back in for this game, tries to blast that one top right corner, but unfortunately just a bit too much on it, just goes over the crossbar. It definitely would have been Dean Henderson, but unfortunately just misses the target, and it is still 1-1 here at home park against the Crystal Palace team too. To be fair, so far actually in terms of stats, have been on the front foot, but as you've seen before, we do tend to grow into the games a bit more off the back of the half-hour mark. Hopefully that will be the case yet again here, but so far this first half hasn't been up to too much, apart from those goals that we have seen. But just before half-time here in Crystal Palace, they are on the ball. Holding plays that one forward to Luma, goes back there to McCullum. Hopefully we can make sure it's 1-1 going into the sheds. A goal here might change our plans just a little bit. To be fair, no one out there on too poor a rating, but we'll see what does happen in this highlight. Crystal Palace are keeping the ball well here, and now Richards will square that one for Luma. Goes back out to Anderson down their right-hand side, back in for Luma. Ball over the top there for Edouard. Does get in behind this Odson Edouard and beats Luis Jr. We're going to demand more here because this has not been a very good first half performance for us at all, apart from that goal that we did get off the back of that one they scored early. But Crystal Palace might be going to the sheds here with a 2-1 lead, so maybe those goalkeeping injuries have just upset the apple cart here a little bit more than I was hoping for, especially in the Premier League. Didn't mind those losses to Chelsea or Man City considering the circumstances, but a loss here to Crystal Palace all the way down in 17th would be very, very frustrating. Just going to check in here on player ratings and player fitness, but to be fair, everyone is on an okay enough rating. The Waine Train on a 6.5, but even then not doing too bad. But we'll tell our guys that they're not playing well enough at all, and hopefully they can turn this around in the second half. If it does stay this way, might have to chuck both Mumba and Paveda onto attack with around about a half hour left, but at the moment we will be staying down in 8th on the Premier League table. As I said, it still might be good enough come the end of the season for some European football, but ideally we would not find out. But now it's Lewis Gibson who is down to a 6.4 with a half hour left. We'll bring on Sebastian Hausner for him, put him on the right-hand side. Also, Tony Springett can come on for Callum Wright, who has been doing a pretty average job the last month or so. So Springett might be due a turn there in the first team. And off the back of those subs, it is now Crystal Palace who do get a highlight. Elise here gets in behind, tight angle. Thankfully, Luis Jr. there does come up this time with a save to keep it at 2-1. But at the moment, Crystal Palace looking like the team more likely to score the next goal, which would be disappointing. Interesting to see there, our new goalkeeper, he goes up to a 7.0 rating, and it is still 2-1, thankfully, and it might be time for us to soon chuck some more players onto some more positive roles. But now it's a corner here to Crystal Palace. That one, thought Luis Jr. might have got a touch on that, but it just goes over the bar. But Crystal Palace is certainly putting the pressure on us here, and now Paveda does go down to a red hut, so Morgan Whittaker can come on for him. And while we're at it, I think we'll chuck both him and Bali Mumba onto attack. So hopefully that might just help us grab a goal in these last 20 or so minutes of this game. It can help sometimes just make us a bit more threatening going forward. But yet again, Crystal Palace here, they are in position. Dean Henderson plays that out to his defence, and now they can try and make their way through our attackers, who, to be fair, are putting them under some decent pressure. The Waine Train gets their ball back for us. Big chance, but unfortunately it comes off the crossbar. Today he's just been leaning into those shots a little bit too much. I say leaning into them, leaning back and putting them a little bit high, and that one doesn't quite hit the target enough, and it is still 2-1 in favour of Crystal Palace. And now with our last stoppage, we'll take off Buckley on that red heart for Bischoff, and also Ben Waine not doing that well, so Good Johnson can come on for him and hopefully continue that goal scoring form from that Blackburn Rovers game, and that might make sure we can at least grab something out of this one, albeit it's now a free kick to Crystal Palace inside our half. Hopefully we can hold them out here and give ourselves a chance to grab something from this game. And it's Richards on the ball, plays that one forward to Veghorst, the striker these days at Crystal Palace, but thankfully we get that ball back now. Morgan Whittaker on off the bench in this one. Starts to cut inside from a tight angle, makes his way through, but unfortunately Henderson that time comes up with a pretty good save at point blank range to keep it at 2-1, but now a chance for us here, it looks like, from a short corner. Morgan Whittaker back on the ball. Will try and put this one back into the mixer. In fact, he tries to pick out Bischoff. Good tackle from Eze, but thankfully we do keep the ball, albeit Bischoff there, but loose on it, and it is still 2-1 to Crystal Palace, and they, to be fair, kind of deserve it based on the stats as well, but thankfully now going to get on the front foot just a little bit more. Bali Mumba puts this one far post for Morgan Whittaker, who will leap up like a salmon and put that one away. Hopefully our guys get their act into gear, because there's still 5 minutes to potentially grab a winning goal from this game, but thankfully we've got an equaliser at the very least. Bischoff finds Mumba, who floats that one far post, and Morgan Whittaker, as he's done for us at times in the save, gets up and gets his head onto that one to make it 2-2 with only a few minutes left. We will stay attacking and keep both Mumba and Whittaker on those attacking roles, so hopefully we can kick on and grab a win in this game. Also might just tell our guys to play a little bit wider just to see if that helps out as well. But to be fair, I think we'll take that result, because we did not play nearly as well as you expect us to at home against the team down in 17th on the Premier League table. To be fair, Luis Jr. got a decent rating from that game, despite the fact that he could have done better for that first goal scored by Eze in particular. But it's a 2-2 draw. Honestly, a little bit disappointed in that one, but I think because of goal differential, we will still go above Manchester United and back into one of those qualifying spots in Europe. So in a decent spot on the Premier League table, but that's a game I felt like we should have got 3 points from going into it, but unfortunately not quite at our best. Maybe still missing our English-speaking goalkeepers here at Plymouth Argyle, but thankfully we turn around those couple of defeats that we did suffer to Chelsea and Man City. It's a 2-2 draw against Crystal Palace at Home Park. So unfortunately, a couple of drop points there for us in the Premier League, albeit because we had to come back late. That's actually not too bad of a result, but against 17th in the league, that does feel like a missed opportunity to go a bit clearer in 7th spot on the Premier League table, but thankfully we are still in that spot. Hopefully we can kick on off the back of this game and maybe keep ourselves in a European spot going into the end of our first season in the Premier League, and also hopefully soon we'll get the likes of Mike Cooper back in goal, because that could make a big difference while our new goalkeeper does learn the language before he will get that starting spot going into the 3rd season of this save. But I think that will do it for this first episode of the week. Quite a bit went on. I know it's a bit of a long one, but lots of transfer stuff and injuries to goalkeepers that we did need to cover off. If you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow and wrap up transfer deadline day off the back of the 2 games that we are going to play. A couple of players are a bit upset here at the club at the moment. Bali Mumba wants to start more games. I'd like to keep him, but we'll see how that goes. That might be a player who does make his way out the door here at Plymouth Argyle. And also Rafael Mamas says he's playing in a weak position and role. When we signed him, he wanted to play as a ball-winning midfielder. We play him as a ball-winning midfielder, so not too sure what's going on there. Might be a bug from the beta, but we're going to come back first up tomorrow and play our 4th round tie in the FA Cup. I meant to reveal this before we play that Crystal Palace game, but it's a big one off the back of taking on Arsenal of all teams in the Premier League. We'll take on Manchester City at the Etihad. Hopefully they might rotate a little bit for that game, but that will be a tough one if we want to go any further in the FA Cup. And off the back of that, we'll take on Fulham in a rematch from that thriller just before the end of December, that funny game where Mike Cooper got injured celebrating the Ben Waine goal. But hopefully with that one being at Home Park, we can pick up our first win in the Premier League potentially for a little while before we get stuck into maybe some business on transfer deadline day. But we'll come back tomorrow and at least play those 2 games against Man City in the FA Cup and Fulham in the Premier League. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.